Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel once again. I'm Tony and today we're going to do the real review of Dior Sauvage Elixir. Now, when I say real review, it doesn't mean that anybody else's review is fake. No, what I mean by that is that I purchased this fragrance myself with my own money, so I'm not going to pledge no allegiance to nobody. There is no brand loyalty. I'm a real consumer just like you. There is no affiliate link so you can click, buy something and I get some commission. None of that. And most importantly, I am not trying to sell you anything. If I tell you that I like something, that means that I really like it. And if I tell you that I don't like something, that means I really don't like it. And yes, this intro is a total Flossy Carter ripoff. I am in no way, and I repeat, I am in no way, shape or form claiming that I'm an expert or that I know more than anyone else in the fragrance community. I'm just gonna share my thoughts and experiences with you so you can decide if you drop your hard-earned money in a bottle of perfume or not. Take my review and really anyone's review with a grain of salt. We all have different perceptions, different skin chemistry, and of course, different taste. So let's get busy. Let's start off with one of the most, if not the most important aspect when it comes to purchasing a new fragrance, the price. Now, there's really no point of telling you how much this fragrance costs right now because if you're watching this video 2, 3, 5 years from now, chances are the price is going to be a little or a lot higher due to inflation. But today you can get this fragrance, the 100 milliliter bottle, for $265 and $199 for the 60 ml version, which is this one. Now, price is always going to be subjective. There might be some people who need to save up for months just to get this fragrance, and there's some other people who can afford to buy $200, $300, $500, $500 fragrances in a single purchase on a regular basis. So it depends on each people's economy, of course. But for me, the price is right. Why am I saying that? I'll explain you throughout the whole video. Is it worth the price? Let's find out. Now, presentation. This is the first time that I properly include a presentation segment in one of my fragrance real review videos. We had a little comment about presentation in the Bleu de Chanel exclusive real review video. I'm gonna start implementing the presentation segment, but mainly in niche and premium fragrances. Why? Because if a perfume is $200 and above, at that price point for me, the presentation starts to play an important role in the final price tag. Now, I have reviewed fragrances way above $200, like Renaissance by Sergioff, Acqua di Parma Oud, Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. But honestly, when I reviewed those fragrances, I just didn't think about the presentation factor. Spoiler alert, those three fragrances have from acceptable to amazing presentation. So from now on, if a fragrance is $200 and above, the presentation segment will be included. So I already paid my $200 for the 60 ml version. The presentation is nice. No cheap cardboard box as we're used to see in most commercial fragrances. And as far as a consumer perspective, which I totally am, I truly appreciate it. With this fragrance, we have a more premium presentation. And it makes sense. Again, as far as commercial fragrances go, we paid more money for less milliliters, but now we have better quality ingredients and a better presentation. So presentation is approved. Now let's continue with the notes. According to Dior's official website, more specifically in the US version of Dior's website, it mentions a tailor-made lavender essence and a blend of rich woods. It also says the emblematic freshness of Dior Sauvage with an intoxicating heart of spices, a lavender essence, and a blend of rich woods. But if you go to the international version of Dior's website, it says spicy grapefruit and a heady lavender. The iconic freshness of Sauvage meets spicy grapefruit and heady lavender in a sensual trail of sweet, smooth woods. I'm also asking myself, why are they saying different things in different versions of the same website? I have no clue. But according to Fragrantica, on the top notes we've got nutmeg, cinnamon, cardamom, and grapefruit. On the middle notes we have lavender, and as base notes we've got licorice, sandalwood, amber, patchouli, and Haitian vetiver. Now we have incredible quality in here. Some of them might be natural, some of them might be synthetic, but it doesn't matter. This, as far as Dior Sauvage line, is something else. By the way, this is a parfum concentré, concentration. Whatever the hell that means. Now, what do I smell in here? Remember, this is the part of the video that is kind of subjective because what I'm about to tell you is just my perception, and of course it may vary from your perception. So what Dior did here was very bold. They dared to create a scent that definitely steps away from the original Sauvage DNA. And honestly, hats off to them. When they have one of the most, if not the most, successfully sold fragrance of this century and possibly of all time, releasing something like this, smell-wise, that requires courage. And personally speaking, they hit a home run with this. So when you first spray this, your nose will be delighted with the sweet/warm spiciness of the nutmeg, paired perfectly with the cinnamon, which is not gonna be stinging with your nose as you could expect. It's noticeable, but taint. And aside of that characteristic smell of the cinnamon, it's also gonna give us this slight powdery thing along with the previously mentioned nutmeg. Then the cardamom will appear almost at the same time, and it will bring that characteristic sweet and aromatic property that only the cardamom does. We also have a tiny bit of freshness in the opening because of the grapefruit, which smells good, nothing realistically mind-blowing, just a slightly bitter grapefruit gets the job done. But you gotta really pay attention to smell it, because with all the other heavy notes in the fragrance, that slight hint of freshness is almost unnoticeable. Not to mention, it's pretty ephemeral as well. Then, minutes later, you will definitely notice the lavender note, which I know some people don't like it. Personally, I love it. And of course, it's gonna bring that distinct and timeless aromatic nuance with a tiny grainy touch. The lavender is very noticeable throughout the whole life of the fragrance. So if you don't like the lavender note, bear that in mind. And the lavender is also going to act as the bridge to the base notes of the fragrance, which I can highlight the licorice with its unmistakable and unique type of syrupy sweetness, and also the amber, which is going to provide that slight resinous and warmness that is going to round up the whole composition. So this is not a linear fragrance. It has some changes to it. Mainly the spicy components in the first minutes of the fragrance, which are very dominant in the opening, will subdue a little bit to open up the path for the resinous, sweeter and more ambery facet of the fragrance. Obviously with that touch of lavender, but without losing the spicy part. After that description, it's kind of obvious, but I'm gonna state it anyway. This one has barely anything to do with the original Sauvage DNA, which is very bright, peppery, fresh, and metallic. If you smelled this blindly for the first time, you wouldn't guess it's a Sauvage flanker. So if you like the EDT, EDP, and even the Parfum, I cannot guarantee you're gonna like this. Now I just mentioned some of the notes to highlight some aspects of it, not all the notes. Of course, you can smell different things, different facets when you get your nose on the fragrance, because remember, each nose is a totally different world. Now let's talk about a very important topic for a lot of people. The compliments. So if you've seen any of my previous fragrance real review videos, at this point you already know I couldn't care less about the compliments. And it's kind of crazy because a lot of people buy fragrances with the sole purpose of hopefully feeling validated throughout other people's opinion. That's not my case. I'm one of those weird people that buy fragrances just to please myself, and that's it. If some other people like it and is kind enough to give me a compliment, thank you so very much. But that's not something I'm after. Now with that being said, I have received a great amount of compliments wearing this thing, mainly from ladies. Now performance, let's talk about performance. But first let me remind you something. Not all atomizers were created equal. Some of them are average, just getting the job done. You got those crappy ones that a bottle of perfume basically just spits when you're applying it in your skin or clothing without the consistent burst of perfume. You got the famous myth atomizer, which this is the case, but you gotta play with them. Each kind of atomizer is not gonna eject the same amount of perfume. But this one is obviously very good. Now the performance of Dior Sauvage Elixir is fantastic. I'm getting an average of 7 to 8 hours spraying this in both my skin and clothing. And I'm talking about 6 to 7 sprays in total. You're probably gonna say that is too much, but I'll get to it shortly. Now projection. Using that amount of sprays, the initial blast is huge. You'll be projecting 2 meters from you for 20 minutes, then you'll have it within your arm's reach for about 2 hours, then you'll have it within your personal bubble, let's say within your elbow's reach for about 4 hours, then it will gradually tone down until it becomes a skin scent. Now, once it becomes a skin scent, it will stop projecting, but the sillage of this is amazing. Even during the 7th or 8th hour, the scent trail you leave with this is very strong. And if you're greeting someone with a hug and a kiss, they will definitely notice that you're wearing perfume. One thing I will say, after the 2nd or 3rd hour, I will get nose blind, and that will make the illusion that the performance is weak, but nothing further from the truth. This will keep radiating with a great sillage, as I just said, even after 8 hours you applied it. Remember, not all fragrances were created precisely with the purpose of being projecting like crazy with a longevity of 12 plus hours. They're more subtle scents that were created precisely with the purpose of being more intimate. But this one has not a single issue with performance. Now, occasions. If you see Sauvage, you automatically think of a versatile, mass-pleasing scent that can be used in any occasion pretty much all year round. And that is true, but with the previous flankers. But in my opinion, that's not the case with this. This is a totally different beast, as I said, much more elegant, much more sophisticated, much more mature smelling, and also way more formal. Now, considering what I just said about the performance, you can easily assume that this is not the fragrance that you want to wear when you go out to the nightclub where there's a lot of people smoking cigarettes and God knows what else. This is way too elegant for that. This is something that I would use on special occasions, like an important business meeting, a special date with your significant other, and of course, this could easily cover formal events, like weddings, red carpet events if you move in those spheres, at the opera, New Year's celebration, those important moments when you know it's gonna be extra special. Take those occasions into consideration, preferably in cooler weather, not necessarily freezing cold, because that's not the case either. But in your nice business meeting or the nice dinner with your significant other, I'm assuming there will be air conditioning. If that's the case, no problem. Now, I also have used this in hot weather, and I'm talking about 40 Celsius or 107 Fahrenheit, and surprisingly, this is not overwhelming, at least not for me. But if I'm gonna use this in summertime or at the hotter spring season, I would recommend you to use this in the evening, obviously measuring the sprays. Gender, let's go with gender. This is marketed as a masculine fragrance, and I agree 100%. This smells very masculine. As I always say, if you happen to be a lady that likes the smell of this, go ahead, no one's here to stop you. But this leans totally towards the masculine spectrum. And finally, age. This one being a totally different aspect as far as the Sauvage line goes. As I said, more sophisticated, more concentrated, more elegant. I also mentioned this one smells more mature. So I would say if you're 30 and above, you're good to go. So quality, great. Versatility, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. Performance, fantastic. Compliments, yes. Now, personally speaking, I barely have anything negative to say about this fragrance. Yes, the price is noticeably higher than the rest of the commercial fragrances in general, but we have far superior quality in the ingredients used here, a unique scent profile compared to the vast majority of commercial fragrances in the market, acceptable presentation, and fantastic performance. What I will say, this fragrance in particular can go one way or the other. You love it or you hate it. Because I will admit, the scent profile for this is not for everyone. It's not challenging though, but it's not mass-pleasing either. Unlike the Sauvage EDT, EDP, and even the Parfum, those three are very hard to dislike. Of course, there are some exceptions to the rule. I know some people that cannot stand the smell of the original Sauvage DNA, but still, that's a very small percentage. Now me, I don't really enjoy too much the original Sauvage DNA, but I don't hate it either. This one barely resembles to the original Sauvage DNA. We already stated that, and not only that, this is almost a Fougère fragrance. Just like the Dior cologne real review video when I talked about the recipe for a cologne, but as far as my understanding goes, a Fougère fragrance consists of citruses in the opening. We have grapefruit, lavender in the middle notes. This one has a ton of lavender, and oak moss in the base of the fragrance. That's like the bare bones recipe of a Fougère fragrance. Of course, many notes could be added, but that's the basic structure. And we're only missing the oak moss here. So it's normal if a large part of the demographics don't like Fougère fragrances, because they tend to perceive them as old school or dated. But I personally like the modern twist of a Fougère fragrance Dior did here. If you ask me, this one could easily have been part of La Collection Privée. The quality is fantastic, and the performance is even far superior than a lot of the fragrances in La Collection Privée. Now, if you happen to have a ton of fragrances like 500 and above, you have smelled plenty of commercial, niche, and ultra niche, and also vintage fragrances, this one could lack a little bit of originality, and that's why you could say it's a little bit overpriced. But as far as normal persons go, the scent profile of this, I will say it once more, is very unique as far as the vast majority of commercial fragrances. I'm really glad that I bought this fragrance. Definitely my favorite flanker of Sauvage. And remember, at the end of the day, do whatever you want with your fragrances. no one, and I mean absolutely no one, is entitled to tell you what to do. This is just my opinion, as I stated in the very beginning of the video. If this review was useful to you, I would feel very glad, I would feel very honored. But at the end of the day, do as you please. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, I really hope you found this video useful. So, thank you so much. Tack så mycket. Merci beaucoup. Muito obrigado. Dankeschön. Muchas gracias. Spasiba. Keitos. Grazie mille. Arigatou gozaimasu. See you in the next video.